guys, Stuart, Tomlinson, Warrior Collective. I hope you're well. Back once again, Inside Chat. And today I'm really excited to let you know who I'm joined by. I'm joined by Irish MMA sensation and Uber coach, Owen Roddy. Owen, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for the good intro. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm keeping well. And yourself, Stuart, you good?
Oh yeah, no, I'm great. Keeping busy in lockdown, as
Yeah.
we've kind of spoke before about. But you know how it is. How's things over in Ireland? I know you're still coaching elite fighters over there, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah, I'm still getting a few sessions in. Like we have the elites, the elite amateurs, and the professionals that I have in the gym. So we're getting a bit of work in with them. And doing our best. Obviously it's a bit frustrating for our regular members and you know basically the people that pay the bills, not the people that come and just do training just to enjoy it and learn and stuff like that. Unfortunately, they've you know they've kind of fared out the worst in this situation. They don't get to train and stuff like that. The elites, obviously it's their job and their career. So they have to. There has to be some sort of facilitation for them. But the average Joe is missing out. But look, I'm taking over. I have my elite guys training and we're looking to get them matched up. We've a couple of guys matched up in the coming weeks. So yeah, just focusing on that.
Yeah, I genuinely said what I meant in terms of Uber coach. I mean, known as such a phenomenal coach, it's but that it doesn't come by accident. When if we take people back a little bit, then who might not realize just kind of when it started for you. When did you start training in martial arts then?
I actually started. I went straight into mixed martial arts. I started when I was 18. It's kind of a very very cliche story, very similar story to a lot of the guys my age and a lot of the guys that got into MMA in the early days. I got my hands on UFC one on VHS. Somebody gave it to my brother, and I got my hands on it. I watched it. At first, when I put it on, I was like, "This is gonna be like wrestling." I was a fan of wrestling back in the day, so I was like, "I'll give it a watch anyway." And then it was like, watch Hoist Gracie go in, and people were trying to kill each other. It was legit, and I was like, "I want to lay with that little small fella." No, it was because relatively small myself, and I went on the pursuit. I back in the day in Ireland, the martial arts advertisements were in the back of the paper. So I, get to the back of the paper and look and, street defense and ultimate self-defense combat and all. And I rang all of these guys and I couldn't find anyone that was doing it. And I'm in school, in my final year in school in sixth year, doing my leaving cert. And I'm walking through and in the library, I just stuck my head in the window of the library and I seen some lad, showing the fifth years or the fourth years how to do arm bars, and I was like, oh my god! I says that's cage fighting. That's that no holds barred cage fighting stuff, isn't it? And it was Andy Ryan. Andy Ryan is the head coach of Team Rhino in Ireland. He's had plenty of UFC fighters. He's a phenomenal coach. So it was him, and I asked him. I says, where do you do this? I've been looking to do it. And he says, I do it down in Colester, which is a couple of miles away from me. I says, well, can I come down and try a class? He says, come down on Saturday. So I got me push bike, cycle down to Colester, and I went in, and it was the kind of the OGs of Irish MMA. There was John Kavanagh, there was Dave Roach, Andy Ryan, Dave Jones, John Donnelly, and a couple of lads that are kind of the original kind of few that started doing MMA in Ireland. And I threw myself into the deep end, and I've been training and coaching and competing ever since. I got the bug, and it's never left.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned like OGs. It really was. I mean, that was like it was like the really starting point of what it's become today, which is so many phenomenal fighters have come out of Ireland. But it kind of all came about really around those individuals you've just mentioned and that kind of point in time, didn't it?
Yeah, without a doubt. Like you can trace every person that does mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu back to that group of people. Like John taught so many guys, and they went off and set up their own gyms, and then we used to bring over we used to learn from, from VHS, or there'd be a seminar. You'd bring over like Saulo Ribeiro or Rodrigo Medeiros, or Noah came over back in the day. Ian Freeman used to come over an awful lot. Even Lee Remedios back in the day, So these guys all came over. You would take as much information as you could out of them, and keep it and put it to practice. At the time, John, I think, was a maybe a blue belt or a purple belt when I started. And he was the highest ranked guy in the country. So it was the Wild West back then, and we were a committed group of people that were just trying our best to learn and pick up any techniques or information we could from anyone and put it to practice. And if it works, we kept it, and if it didn't work, we threw it away. But great times, unbelievable memories as well.
So what do you remember about that kind of period? Because it's changed, so it seems to. I mean, obviously it's changed over quite a long period of time, but it seems to have changed so much over the past 10 years. But what do you remember of the training back then when you first went in those doors? Then
I remember being very very chaotic. We didn't train smart back then. It was. You just kind of fought, and oh look here, I seen this on a video. It's called a toy plum, and you just grab somebody by the neck and you pull them down. You need them in the face. What do you think of that? That's brilliant. Let's try that. And here, this is called a heel hook. You just grab the knee and you twist and all. So it was chaotic, and it was wild, and it was definitely not the best and most efficient way to be training, or the most productive way to be training. But it was all we knew. I just always the smell of the gym always comes back to me, because it was an old gym, and it just like smell of sweat and hard work. It was brilliant. I loved it. I don't regret anything from back then. I used to go down to Colester on a Saturday morning. I do a training session with Andy Ryan and all the boys, and then I'd go back to Ballymun, where I'm from, and Dave Roach, he's like the assistant coach now. He was a phenomenal fighter back in the day on the Irish and the UK scene, and I used to go back to his basement in the flats in Ballymun, and he used to beat the shit out of me, and I'd go home and I used to think it was the best thing ever, and he'd be like, "This is how you fish hook somebody, and you pin the face against the wall, and then you crack them and all." And I'd be going home with black eyes and all, and I'm like, this is unbelievable, But we got a bit better at how we trained over the years, But I loved every minute of it, to be totally honest.
Well, do you know what? I speak to a lot of people, and to be honest, it's fairly similar of that generation where it wasn't as accessible or as moved on as it was, and there was a lot of trial by mistake, wasn't there? And and I'm guessing that's kind of how it was for a lot. But so how did you get from there then to competition? Because I'm guessing at that point there was no MMA competition in Ireland.
There was very few. I think. There was very few. It was mainly the UK scene was starting to boom then. Like, it was regular shows. Cage Warriors was like, I remember I used to watch Cage Warriors on Sky. I forget what channel it was. It was some mad random channel. And I used to watch Cage Warriors on that, and I was like, this is the bleeding be all and end all. This is unbelievable. But there was the odd show in Ireland, but you just kind of went in. I trained for about a year or so, and just went in and had a fight up north, and that was it. Like, and there was no kind of amateur. Amateur came a little bit afterwards. They brought in like an MMA league, but my first fight was up. It was in a ring up north. And it was pretty much full rules. I don't think there was elbows, but other than that, it was everything. I was only a kid, and it was brilliant,
So you ended up fighting on Cage Warriors, didn't you? Is that right?
Yeah, I only had one fight in Cage Warriors, but it was a goal of mine to fight on Cage Warriors. It was my last fight, and then obviously I retired due to some injuries and stuff, but. It was my goal to get on Cage Warriors, just to get the yellow gloves. It was something that I watched. It was for me back then. It was UFC, and then it was Cage Warriors. Or it was Cage Warriors, you get Cage Warriors and you get UFC. Still pretty much kind of the path that a lot of fighters would use today. I know there's a few more paths and stuff, but back then that was the path. Cage Warriors and UFC. From watching it on the telly and stuff like that, and looking at all the UK fighters coming through and going on to fight in the UFC, I was like, I wanted to fight in Cage Warriors. But I fought everywhere, and I fought around Europe, and I fought in the UK a couple of times, and fought in Ireland a few times as well. So it was a lot of fun, you know.
Yeah, and you mentioned obviously because of injury, you had to retire earlier than you would have liked. But you kind of took that and spun it into being a positive, and and turned more to coaching, didn't you? That was when you kind of focused more on the coaching aspect of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was devastated when I retired. You know, I'd fought Wilson Hayes in Cage Warriors. It was my first fight, and you know, I made a good show of myself. I made a mistake, and you know, I paid dearly for it. But I was winning. I was winning parts of that fight, like, so. I was never out on my depth. I felt in the third round, if I had got off a little bit more, and I had got clipped, I'd have won that third round, and potentially won the second and third round and won, you know. But that wasn't to be, you know. But after that fight, I took so much from it. I was like, you know, Wilson Hayes was a huge name. He'd fought in Elite XC and stuff. He was a BJJ world champion and phenomenal fighter. Nobody wanted to fight him when he came into Cage Warriors, and I took it as an opportunity to go in and win, and then get the nod and get the call from the UFC. So when I lost, I remember putting out on Facebook, I was like, yeah, I might have lost, but I think I gave my opponent too much respect and didn't respect my own game enough. I says, but I promise you all, when I get back in there, I'm going to I'm gonna go after it, and I'm gonna fucking prove that I'm one of the best in the world. And for whatever reason, my injuries came, and I just was kind of forced to retire. So it was a disaster. It was heartbreaking, and I remember, sulking and being depressed for a month or two. But I gave myself a bit of time to be a little whinge bag and be a little bitch about it. And I said, look, in a month's time or so, when you make your final decision and you're retired, make the decision and go into something else. And coaching was kind of the only option for me. I'd been coaching kids and teens for John for a while, so I just said, look, I'll go full steam into coaching and take it from there. And I've had a very successful career, and it's still a very young career. I've done a lot with Conor and stuff, but I'm still very young in my own coaching career, like my own personal coaching career. I've been, coaching under John and coaching in John's gym for many years and stuff like that. But now I'm full time, and I'm actually really enjoying it now, and I'm still learning the ropes and stuff as you always do. But I have a lot more to show in my own personal coaching career.
No, I mean, you say, and that's because you were forced to retire. So you've been coaching longer than most, because most would have saw out that fighting career and they would have come to coaching later on. But, because of that was taken away from you, you've got into coaching, full time earlier than some people. And that's giving you more time to kind of play that. And it kind of feels like you've been coaching a long time, yet actually it's still only the start for you. So, I mean, some of the fighters that I've spoken to from Ireland and what I've read as well, you're very well thought of by a lot of the Irish fighters who've come out of the generation when you've been coaching. How did you then fall into the striking coaching role? Is that something because that's what you're known for? I'm sure obviously you're coaching all the rule sets, but predominantly you're known as being a really striking exceptional striker. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? It's something that because I started in MMA, and I mean it was kind of BJJ at the start. Like when MMA started out in Ireland, it was like whoever knew about a BJJ was, the dog's bollocks. Like, you know what I mean? So I kind of, and John is obviously predominantly known for his jiu-jitsu, phenomenal MMA coach. But at the time, he was definitely more known for his jiu-jitsu. So it was jiu-jitsu that I started out with, but After about a year or so of doing jiu-jitsu, on the Irish scene, I was very confident at my jiu-jitsu, and I I used that as an opportunity to focus more on my striking. I was like, I can put a lot more time into my striking now, because if I'm in any trouble or anything like that, I'll just shoot a takedown and go in and sub them. So I had that confidence in my ground game, that I was I had the confidence then to stand a bit more. And I'm doing striking all my life as well. I've done plenty of years of Thai boxing. We had a very very good Thai boxing coach in Johns, Paddy Clint. Yeah, Irish Thai boxer, phenomenal coach as well. And then we had boxing coaches in over the years, and I always call myself like a technical thief. I listen, and if there's anything that I think I can keep and add to my game or add to my arsenal or pass on, I'll take and I'll steal. You know what I mean? But it was through coaching, doing the pad work and coaching with Conor. We were both southpaws, and we were sparring partners and stuff like that. Um, it was through that I started to get well known for my striking, and I just fell in love with the the concepts in striking. Jiu-jitsu, you know, it's a game, and it's you have to you play the game. It's about strategy and stuff, but not many people would talk about striking in that sense. I would see striking in that kind of in that kind of way, and I started to kind of see striking in that way, like focusing not focusing on pads and stuff, but more like range and range maintenance, and cage control, and fighting off the back foot, and more the concepts of striking, instead of learning a million combinations and stuff like that. So I just started to really fall in love with striking and stuff, and then I just practice what I preached, and start teaching it to my guys, and start teaching it to when I was coaching in Johns, and start kind of putting out there what my ideas were, and the feedback was always very good, and it just built from there.
Yeah, and I guess one of the things that people get wrong is they think striking for MMA is similar to other striking sports, and it's not, is it? There's a lot of differences that have to be adapted. And actually, just because you're strong in Muay Thai doesn't necessarily mean that's going to translate straight off the bat, into an MMA format. And given what you said earlier about how you started, I'm guessing that there was a lot of trial and error in that, developing your striking system along the way at the same time.
Yeah. It was like there's plenty of aha moments. Like it's like, as you said earlier on, lots of trial and error. But like, isn't that's kind of like how we evolve? Like, it's up to me to make. Well, not up to me to make all the mistakes, but I've made so many mistakes over the years, that now I've devised my game plan and my strategies for striking, and now I pass that on to my guys and my coaches, and then they will even refine it even more, make it a little bit more efficient, and then pass on again. And that's how we evolve in any kind of martial art. So yeah, plenty of trial and error. Yeah, I do laugh because I'm so, when I teach my guys, I'm like so focused on not being constantly on the center line, keeping your head off the center line, because when your head is on the center line, you're easily hit. But then when I look back at my fights, my head is on the center line, and I'm eating about 50 shots, and they're like, yeah, but coach, why aren't you, like, you keep saying to us, get your head off the center line, or pop a shot and be evasive and move off and land clean combinations and then move off. Don't stay in front of the guy and brawl. But look at all your fights that you've done that. I was like, yeah. And that's why I'm telling you, it's because that's not the right way to fight. I've had to learn from those mistakes so that you don't have to make those mistakes, So yeah, it's just how we evolve,
Yeah, and you've mentioned it before, obviously. People are going to know you, a lot because of your work with Conor, and that's thrust you onto a big stage. And I guess there's a lot of pressure with that, isn't there? Being the striking coach and being part of that coaching team for Conor, and being part of that evolution for him. And also, he's fought so many different styles of fighters, hasn't he? So each one presents a different problem. How have you found that role over the years then?
Yeah. A lot of pressure, but early on, that's all there is. Like, you don't realise, and John used to wind me up. He was like, because you're doing open walkouts and stuff like that, and John would never do anything really in the open walkouts. Nobody really wants to watch kind of grappling as such in an open walkout. They want to see the pads, want to see the striking. So before going out onto the stage to do the open walkout, trying to be like, now Owen, you know yourself. Just know that there's a couple of million people watching you there, so just don't fuck it up. It's like, you bleeding bastard, you. And he'd laugh, So, but you know what? I always do say one thing to myself. I give it 100%. So when I go into a camp or when I do anything, I give it 100%. I do it to the best of my ability, and I leave no stone unturned. I do as much as I possibly can. So if you do that, then you can't have any regrets. Yeah, sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes we get it wrong. Sometimes we get it right. But I can always fall back with the confidence that I did everything in my power. I didn't take a day off. I didn't slack. I didn't, if I was in camp, I wasn't just, doing nothing. I was watching tape. I was thinking of shots. I was, working on counters. I was looking to find holes in our opponent's game. I was looking to find openings for our opponents to land on my fighters, to correct my fighters, to make sure that they don't make the mistakes. 24/7. I leave my family. I go wherever I need to go, and I commit like I would if I was fighting. Like when I used to fight, my wife would give out to me because I was a different person, because nothing else mattered except for the fight. And now when I coach, it's the same thing. We give it 100%, so that win, lose or draw, I know I done my best. So that gives me the confidence to do anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and also, we talk about Conor, but there was lots of other great SBG fighters who were around, around at that point, and they're all slightly, they're all like all good fighters and all good gyms. They're all different from each other, but also, I see different aspects of striking in the game. So did you continually add to your own game? Okay, we're gonna focus on Taekwondo style kicks, so we're gonna focus on boxing. So is that still an ongoing evolution for you to keep evolving the striking?
Yeah. So there's aspects of there's opportunities to land anything in a fight. You know what I mean? There's opportunities. Like I don't believe in that doesn't really work in MMA. That doesn't, that type of striking doesn't work in MMA, and this type of striking doesn't work in MMA. It's about the opportunity, and it's about knowing the risk of whatever you do. So if you go in, like, used to work a lot with Artem, and Artem fought with his hands down, and every boxing gym he went into, they were like, no, you can't fight like that. And Artem would hold us on with any boxers that be there. And and the boxing coach was like, you can't fight like that. Why? If I know the risks, I know if I fight with my hands down, there is a risk of me taking a big shot and getting caught in the chin. But if I fight with my hands down, I know people are going to be, trying to land those shots on the head because they think it's there. But if you maintain, edge of range, and you keep on the, you keep your range, and you maybe give a bit of false range and stick your head forward, they'll take the bait, and then it'll set you up for your own shots. Whether if you're going in like Taekwondo style and you're lighting your feet, yeah, there's an opportunity for somebody sitting heavy to land the right hand, but there's also opportunities for you to land a side kick to the body. Or I always use Pettis as a reference. If somebody can run up the side of a cage, jump off and kick you in the face, there's an opportunity. You can fight whatever way you want once you're aware of the risks, and you're happy to take those risks. So all styles are open for me. We also used to fight. I never used to like to change fighters. Like everybody fights differently, and that's based on personality and attributes. So I can't go in and say I want you to fight like a a straight Thai boxer, and I want your hands really high. I want you kind of heavy on your back foot and light in your front foot, and I want you be, you know, static and sit and, you know, have a combination each. Like, you fire your combination, I'll stand here, I'll absorb it and then fire back. That works for somebody that plays that game. But then I can't turn around to a guy that likes to bounce and like fight like an amateur boxer and say, I want you to fight like this, because he's not designed like that. So what I do is I look at a guy and I see how they move. I tell them, okay, if you want to fight with your hands down, you know that there's these risks and you've got to be very good at range maintenance. If you want to fight, you know, Toy style, you got to be very good at keeping a high guard and walking people down and getting them to stop so that you can start to whack those big heavy combinations in. You know, if you want to be a counter striker, you got to be very good at pulling people in. You know, you got to be able to pull them onto you and get them confident in firing, so that when they fire, you can counter their counter and land your stuff off that. You know, so you know, I look at what the guys do and I try my best to add to it and give them options, and it's always trial and error. Some stuff works. If it works, we keep it, and if it doesn't work, we throw it away and we move on.
So obviously, now you spend a lot of time coaching your own fighters, and you know, how do you then look at, given all you've learned then over the years from starting and all the fighters that you've coached, do you have a system now for when they walk through? So let's say, for example, you had teenage you walk through the door. You have this system now that you kind of plug them through to try and develop them in the best way possible.
Basically, my the way I teach, same again. It's not. I always look at striking as like, there's like concepts, and there's like, I call it my blueprint. So my blueprint is like, it's like the rules in which we play striking, and then the weapons is what you use. So, you know, the certain things like, you know, the way I want my guys to fight is I want them to be dominant. I want them to come in and take control of the center of the ring, because it's such a dominance, and it's more efficient. You know, I'm not chasing. I've got control of the ring, and my opponent has to move around me, and then I like to push them up against the cage or the ropes, because same again, it's more efficient, and I've got the ability to move more. I've got the ability to move back, where if somebody's on the cage or on the ropes, they don't have the ability to move back. So then we can predict where they're going and stuff like that. So I've got a lot of these kind of concepts that these are the rules in which we play. But then the same again, I don't force a certain style on somebody. I make sure people kind of keep their chin tucked. I make sure that they know what range they're fighting at, so that they know when they're in danger and when they're not in danger. But then I allow them to play their style, you know. So whether it's like I have some good kind of like traditional martial artists that come in and they play that kind of in and out fast style. So they play that, but then they need to know how to stop the opponent from getting into their game. And let's say I have a points kickboxer, and he's fighting a pro boxer style fighter. The pro boxer style is going to want to get in and sit in and bang big shots, and the points kickboxer is going to want to keep the range. So I'm like, well, as a points kickboxer, you know, as they get in close, you need to have your tools to prevent that. So you need to have quick exits. You need to be fast on your feet, and you need to find the space and get back to the center. Vice versa, if I have the pro boxing style kind of fighter that is heavy on the legs and is closing, he needs to be very good at cutting off the cage and boxing his opponent in, so that it nullifies their tools, and it promotes your tools, if you know what I'm trying to say. So it's just I find what, and I don't want people to, I like people watching other guys and saying, look, I like this technique, you know, I think that might work for me. Well, let's put it in and see if it works. And if it works the same again, we keep it. If it doesn't, we throw it away. So I don't mind you being a technical thief, but I want you to find your style. Because at the end of the day as well, nobody can do your style like you. But if I'm copying somebody else's style, I always be second best as well. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, and
yeah,
I guess now as well, because you're kind of covering all those, because you're obviously it's your gym, you've got to cover all the
yeah,
bases. So when you put in together, let's say a training camp, you know, in normal times, and you've got a
yeah.
fighter preparing for this big fight, what does that training camp kind of look like for you nowadays? Now you've kind of got this experience.
Well, it's the same as, well, I suppose it's the same as any camp. It's just because I've been doing a good few of them now. So basically, I watch tape on the opponents if I know who the opponent is, and I look for openings and opportunities, uh, you know, that my opponent, my guy can capitalise on. And then I obviously look at what, you know, what threats this opponent will bring to my guy. We'll put a game plan together, and then we'll work some stuff. If I don't know who the opponent is, or if there's no footage, like let's say it's an amateur or something like that, well then I'll just focus on playing to my guy's strengths. So really get him focused on and what he's good at, and I'm really trying to implement his game. And then, you know, we know the style of fighters that are out there. We know if somebody's coming out and he's sitting heavy on the legs. I've never seen him before, but my guy should know that this guy is, you know, a heavy, you know, pro style boxer, you know, heavy hitter, forward pressure fighter. So, okay, he's a forward pressure fighter. So we need to fight on the back foot. We need to not exchange in big combinations. We need to, you know, hit and don't get hit and keep moving until we land a shot where he goes on the back foot. And it will come eventually. There's very, very few people, I'll say very few, because there is some people that can just take a hiding for 25 minutes. And if that's what it takes to get the win, that's what it takes to get the win. But most people, you know, if they're a pressure fighter, you fight in the back foot, you fight in the back foot, you fight in the back foot, you keep popping and moving and popping and moving, and then you crack, and then you see that moment where, okay, we've hurt him there. Now it's about putting the pressure on him and putting that controlled pressure on where we put the pressure on physically, but we don't swing shots. We draw shots out of them and we counter them and stuff like that. But like, yeah, so it's just saying again, it's watching tape, you know, trying to devise a plan that we think will work, trying to look at holes in their game, and then putting in shots that we can, putting in techniques that we can capitalise on those holes, and putting it to practice. But it's still always guesswork, isn't it? You know, you can only do your best, and you know, also it's down to the person on the night. As a coach, the only thing I find a bit of a nightmare as a coach is you give all this information and you hope your fighter can go in and do this, but they have to do it. Where, like, if I was fighting, I would prepare myself, and I knew that I would do it a certain way, and I knew if I needed to change, I could change. But you're not in control. You can only do your very best, and then hope on the night that you know your student can get it done and do what needs to be done. You know.
Yeah, no, I get that. I agree completely. So when, because obviously you've been all over the world now with fights. When you look back again, you know, you still got so much left to do. But when you look back from where you are now, what stands out as the big standout moment so far from, you know, being part of coaching, or any experiences that you've had on these travels?
You know what? So many now at this stage. Like, it's weird. I always said, like, you know, when we started, you know, we kind of started to make it big. You know, every single fight was the pinnacle, and like, it's not gonna get much better than this. Shit, Conor won the Cage Warriors belt. It's not gonna get much better than this. He got the two Cage Warriors belts. So look, it's not gonna get much better than this. Like, I mean, we'll count ourselves lucky. Okay, he's got to the UFC. Oh my God. Okay, win, lose or draw. You got the UFC. He goes in and does it in the fashion that he does in this first fight. Oh my God, it's not going to get much better than that. We count ourselves lucky, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's very proud moments in regards to in coaching Conor, like the 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 second Diaz fight. It's a very proud moment because to come back off a loss and not change anything and go in and fight the same way and directly go straight back at it, that some people would fear, even myself. If you lose to somebody, there's that fear of going back in there and doing it again. And it's very easy to go, look, leave it, look, I'll just go fight somebody else or whatever. But to put yourself out there and go back in there and fight, and then fight the exact same way, and go in and prove to yourself and prove to everyone else, more so yourself, that you can do it, and then do it. That's a proud moment. So DS2 was a phenomenal. I remember after the fight, and I just couldn't get over it. I says, you went in, you did it. You didn't change anything. You went straight back in. We did change things. We changed strategy and game plan and stuff like that. But we there was no excuse. Could have easily fought away, could have done all sorts of things, but no, I'll go in and do it exactly the same, and I'll get the win, So that was a proud one. Mayweather, going from boxing, kind of first pro fight, straight in, fighting, pound for pound, one of the best to ever do it. And, going in, and obviously we lost, and I was very sad that night because it was kind of all on me, and then people are like, who's this guy, and he's not a boxing coach, and, you're getting all of this stuff, and no, I'm not, but I think, I think the fact that it wasn't a straight boxer, and he didn't fight just like a straight boxer. We done lots of bumping to the back and getting behind our opponent and stuff. That painted a different picture in that fight, and people can say what they want, and he got carried and all, but Conor still landed more shots on Mayweather than any professional boxer ever did. So, it wasn't a result, and I was devastated because, I wanted so bad for him to win, and so many shots came so close to landing clean, and you have to give Floyd a bit of, you got to give him credit, it's his ability to make you miss just enough so that you don't land that devastating blow, and then a good strategy to drag the fight into the later rounds, and it was very smart, but phenomenal. Every fight that Conor's been in the last 10 years, I suppose, has probably been the biggest, or one of the biggest combat sporting events on earth, and I've been part of them all. So, it's not bad for an old lad from Ballymun,
No, that's it, isn't it? The bar keeps getting raised. I mean, I've got to say, there's no one quite like Conor to raise the bar and and break through that ceiling that people didn't even know could be broken, or who would have known. Like every it just kept going. But you just mentioned it then as well. The downside to that is he gets a lot of trolls, and I'm guessing the people then are connected to him by association receive that sort of level of scrupulation and abuse. And I'm guessing, like you said, as the striking coach for that fight, it must have kind of filtered off onto you a little bit on that one.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I can go into my phone now and pick out 10 or 15 messages, DMs that of abuse that I get, but I laugh at it. Daddy's, my little one is sitting beside me here. Can you go downstairs for 2 seconds and get me a drink? Thank you, honey. Sorry about that. Where was I going? Yeah, I get a lot of stick, but I always laugh, and I always think to myself, if somebody gets a bit of enjoyment, or it makes them feel good by writing some shit about me, I'm kind of happy to provide that facility to them. So, if you want to get on, give me a little bit of shit. There's coaching the shit. You haven't got a clue what you're doing. and that makes you feel good, I'm happy to help. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't affect me whatsoever. I always fall back to what I do, and I know what I do. I know I give it 100%. So you can say what you want to me. I'm easy, man. I know what I do, and I know the effort I put in. So, and then sometimes as well, some people are trying to. They feel like they're trying to help as well, but it is what it is. Like I just focus on me and do my best and throw it away, boys. Throw it away.
So what's the plans for the future now? I mean, obviously COVID's affected a load of fights and promotions, but like you said, you've got legs in the game. There's so much more to come. What personally for you then? What are your goals right now and for the future?
Yeah, like my goal now, my goals are just to build SBG Charlestown, my gym now that I'm solely coaching in, and build like I've got like I want a UFC champion. I want another UFC champion. That's my goal, and I'm setting small goals. So, we've got the IMAFs and the amateurs, and I've got my junior world champions now, which we've got 2 junior world champions, and we've got the senior world champions now as well. I've got in the gym, and I've senior silver medalists, and I've got people fighting on the biggest shows in the world on Bellator, and we're due to get one of my guys in the UFC, but it's been pushed back till later on. So we're gonna make my guys are gonna make the UFC debut, and then it's getting the wins, and then it's fighting for the belt, and then getting the belt, and just building from there. So I'm just plugging away, and I've a wall full of goals, and I just keep ticking them off as I go along, and there'll be a couple of steps back, and there'll be a couple of steps forward, but hopefully more steps forward than back anyway.
So anyone watching this or listening to this, and they like, I really want to train with Owen, or learn from me. Can they come to the gym? Is there some way of getting a hold of the training, or?
Yeah, of course. Like I'm easily found. I do try my best to get back to people on DMs that I don't follow. But SBG Charlestown, the doors are open. It's not closed. It's not a closed gym, so doors are open for everybody. You can come in and join the gym. Obviously, well, I say the doors are open for everybody, but they're closed at the moment. But yeah, but when the gym is reopened, we're happy to take on everybody, and we're happy to facilitate whatever your goals may be. So whether it's losing weight, whether it's learning a bit of self-defense, whether it's learning to box or to kickbox, or to learn striking or jiu-jitsu or wrestling, we're here to help, to do whatever you want. Whether it's to be a world champion, we can help you set goals to get there as well. I'm behind whoever comes in that gym 100% and all the way. So hit me up on SBG Charlestown, hit me up on Instagram, and come over and train. And if you like it and we like you, then we'll grow.
Yeah, and I'm guessing as well, apart from people who are, maybe inexperienced, there's also that kind of, like was with other SBG is, other pro fighters coming along to train and do training camps, I guess. Is that right?
Mm. Yeah, it's great. Like we get a lot of people coming over and doing some, and wanting to do camps and wanting to do even a week or two here. And same again, if they're pro fighters, I do my very best to treat them as well as I treat my own guys, and I'm happy to like at the end of every session, for the last half an hour of every session, I get people on the pads, and I give them a little bit of personal time as much as I can, and I take it from there, and get a lot of positive feedback. So if you're a pro fighter as well that wants to come over and work as well, the doors are always open. I'm happy to help anybody. I love what I do. I love coaching. I love trying to help people improve. It doesn't matter who it is,
No. Well, guys, if you're listening or watching, I can guarantee that when I next go over to Ireland, I'm going to be visiting Owen's gym. I've not had the pleasure yet. It's one of those things that I've been like, oh my God, I need to come over.
Yeah, we'll most definitely get some good work in, and we'll do a little bit for the Warrior Collective. I know it's a huge collective out there. I love the videos. I love the content that you put out. phenomenal stuff. I'm addicted to it myself. Like saying again, I'm on looking at all the coaches on looking at what they're showing and robbing some techniques for myself. So it's a phenomenal platform that you have. It's great for the martial arts community, and we all learn and grow together.
Yeah, no, I love what I do. You know, it's one of the things I enjoy. So yeah, no, I'm glad you think as well of it as I do. But
Yeah,
Owen, I want to say thank you for joining me. I know you're a busy man. I know you've fitted me in for this, so I really do appreciate you spending the time. It's been amazing talking to you and hearing everything you've had to say, and I'm sure everyone listening has really enjoyed it as well. But thank you once again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No, well, pal. As I said, hopefully somebody picks up something about what I babbled on about there. So hopefully, your listeners gain something from this chat. And as always, if anybody has any questions or is interested in my curriculum or my kind of my blueprint or my ideas of striking and martial arts and mixed martial arts in general, don't be afraid to hit me with a DM. I'm happy to get back and try and help as many people as possible. So really enjoyed the chat, and hopefully we get you over and we get to do some content when you're over. So all the best, Stuart. Thanks for your time, and I'll chat to you soon.
No, I can't wait. Thank you.